Alright, today I'm going to calculate pi in Excel using a Monte Carlo simulation. So I've seen this a few times online now. People will do an explanation of how it works, then flash up some code and go, oh, I've run a Monte Carlo simulation, there you go. Well, I'm going to actually show you how to run a Monte Carlo simulation, what it is, and I think this is a nice, simple example, or somewhat simple. So the idea is this. You have a square, and the side length is going to be 2, and that means that inside here, half of it is 1, and we can draw a circle around this point with a radius of 1. So what we want to do is find what the area of a circle is in relation to its radius. So the area of a circle is pi r squared, r is 1, radius is 1, so the area of the circle is pi, basically. So we know the area of the square is 4, it's 2 times 2, and then we want to basically drop random points into this chart, and then however many fall inside the circle, we can do that many divided by 4, so the proportion of the area, and that should give us the area of the circle. So this is what Monte Carlo simulation is. It's basically randomness that when done enough times will reveal an average result, and that average gets closer and closer to the real average, or the expected statistical average, with the more iterations you do. So I will run as many simulations as I can until my computer crashes to try and get pi as accurately as possible. So I'm going to use coordinates for this, kind of 1, 1, 1, 2, that are going to represent the column and the row numbers. So that will be 2, 2, like this. So we have row 1, column 1, row 1, column 2, row 2, column 1, row 2, column 2. And the center point of the circle would be there in this case. So doing it for this 2 by 2 is not going to be big enough. So I'm going to blow everything up by 10 times here. So I'm going to have kind of coordinates of minus 10 to 10. So let's say sequence of 10 starting at minus 10. That's going to give me 10 to 1. And then I'm going to v-stack that with another sequence of 10, and that's that. So what that will do is it will kind of run 10 to minus 1 and 1 to 10, but I won't have a 0 in there. So I have a grid size of 20. This is kind of like my square that was 2 by 2, it's just going to be 20 by 20. So we can actually do the same thing here, but we can say equals hstack instead and do the sequences across columns. And what that will do is it will give us all of the coordinates across. So if we just put that into the same formula, so we say that and that, but I want to change all these 10s to be this so that I can flex the size of my grid. Let's delete that, and there we go. We have some nicely spilled out coordinates. Oh, and I actually missed that I want a comma between them. So let's say and comma and that. And now I get my coordinates. You can see if I bump this up to 100, we get 100 by 100 grid. So let's do 10 for now. Next up, I want to separate these by commas, and I basically want to figure out how far they are from this 0 point. So where's the 0 here? So this is the middle of my square. Now, to calculate the distance of any of these points from the middle, I can use Pythagoras' theorem. So I can check how many columns we go back, how many rows we go up. I can add together their squares and then square root it, and that's Pythagoras' theorem. So we can calculate the distance from the middle for all of these points. So to do that, we can say text split this on a comma. That will give us both of the numbers. And then we can times by 1 to convert from text to number and use the sum square formula. So what sum square does is it squares both the numbers, then adds them together. So there we go, we get 200 there. That's minus 10 squared plus minus 10 squared is 100 plus 100. So let's do it all in one place. So let's say let grid be that. And then we want to do sum square of text split grid on a comma times 1. And what you see is that won't actually work because we're trying to sum square like this whole array at the same time. So it collapses into one cell. We want to do this, evaluate this cell by cell, and that's what the map formula is for. So let's say map grid lambda a, just change it over to that. So it evaluates it cell by cell. So now I have my distances, well, not the distances, the sum of the squares for everything in the grid. We still need to take the square root of it. So we can say square root of all that stuff. So this is the distances away. Okay, let's also have a look at what that looks like when we go for a 100 by 100 grid. So that looks like this. And quite interestingly, you can see these lines in here. These are actually kind of whole numbers almost. And if you look at the pattern, you can kind of see it here. It's sporadic, so a bit of a tangent, but let's just check which ones are whole numbers. Let's say integer of this equals this. We'll get trues or falses. Let's wrap that in minus minus and brackets to turn it to ones and zeros. And then let's put some conditional formatting on this. And there you go, you start to see a pattern of all of the kind of whole numbers. Kind of interesting. I wonder what the logic is to this. You can see kind of the circular pattern. But yeah, it's kind of interesting. Anyway, let's delete all that, put our conditional formatting on this, color scale, and yeah, you start to see our circle there. Let's go back to grid size of 10 for a second. Okay, so now we want to start placing random dots in this chart and check how many are within our circle. So to place random things, we're going to get a random y coordinate and a random x coordinate. So we can say rand between 1 and, actually minus this number and plus this number. And let's just lock those. So there we go, we get minus 10 as our first x coordinate, and then a y coordinate we get 7. Then we want to do some square of those and square root it. So square root. There we go. So if this number is below 10, then we're basically in our circle because our radius here is 10. So let's drag this down a bunch of times. Then we can say sum of minus minus this is less than or equal to 10. And we need to put some extra brackets in there to turn those into ones and zeros. There we go. So we get 14 items. So 14 out of 20. So let's do that out of rows of this. So 0.75, but remember this is 75% of an area that is size 4. So we have to times it all by 4. And we get 3, so we're getting close to pi. So let's just refresh a couple times, 2.8, 2.8, so on and so on and so on. The idea is that the more of these random samples you do, the closer you're going to get to the true average. So let's just drag this down. And as you can see, we'd probably be a little bit closer. Now we're running kind of twice the number of samples. So this is all Monte Carlo is. It's running a random scenario of something. So it might be that you do a financial model and you have kind of a minimum revenue growth and a maximum revenue growth. Most people just test worst case and best case scenario. Well, actually, you have a load of formulas in Excel like norm, inverse, logarithmic, inverse, distribution. These are kind of like bell curve distributions, and you can force points on there randomly using the RAND formula. So you could say something like norm inverse probability would be RAND, which is random number between 0 and 1. Give the thing a mean and a standard deviation. So for inflation, for example, you could find the standard deviation for that. For currency rates, you could find the standard deviation. You could set a minimum and maximum and do this for many variables and just run a load of scenarios. And you'll basically end up with your own bell curve of possible, value or output of your financial model. But we're doing it with one variable here to determine pi. Anyway, you may have noticed I didn't actually use anything in this grid. This was just a visual aid. So now that we know kind of how it works and what it's doing, let's build it in a completely different way so that it's not resource intensive. Then we should be able to get closer and start to run a lot more scenarios. So we'll do how many samples we want up here. So let's say it's 100. And then I want to generate my random numbers. So let's say rand array. I want this many rows and I want 2 columns because I want the x coordinate and the y coordinate, and they're both going to be between -1 and 1. So we're going back to a small xy grid of -1, 1 for this. And there we go. So next up, we want to square each of these terms for each row and then take the square root. So we can actually use by row for that. So we can say by row, I want to take this whole grid, and the operation I'm going to do is sum square. So we get that, and then we can square root that, square root. Then we want to check if these numbers are less than or equal to 1, because that means it's inside our circle. So less than or equal to 1. So there we go, we get falses if anything is above 1 and trues otherwise. Let's just wrap that in brackets and a minus minus to turn it to ones and zeros. And then we want the average, i.e. how many out of all the samples are in the circle. So that's our proportion, and then we can times it by 4 because we know the size of our square from -1 to 1 is 4. So there we go, 2.92. We can run the simulation a load of times. We're getting 3 point whatever, so on and so on. So let's just type equals pi here because Excel has pi kind of just hard coded into it. And let's see how close we can get. So Excel goes up to 15 significant digits, so that's the most accurate we can get pi normally in Excel, and let's see how close we can get by increasing this threshold. So if I do 1,000 simulations, that's 10 times the number, I should hopefully get closer, which I do. So let's just do this minus this for now. Then if I run 10,000, maybe I get closer still. Then let's run 100,000 and then 1,000,000. And at that point, I'm kind of almost out of rows in Excel. So, you know, we've only got 42,000 rows left, or 48,000 rows left, sorry. So I need to kind of collapse this into one cell and then do it a bunch of times over. So let's do that. Let's put these steps inside here and do by row sum square, square root the whole thing, square root. We get it in a single column then. Then we want to do minus minus, is that less than or equal to 1. There we go, and then we can average that, so average, and we can times it by 4, times 4. So there we go, we have our kind of pi, and that is for 1,000,000 samples. Now what I want to do is I want to do that a bunch of times over. So if I said equals sequence of 10, for example, so let's just put that 10 here, then what I could do is I could say map, you know, this sequence, and what do I want to do for each item in that sequence? I want to do, you know, that calculation and not even use the input. Then I will run it 10 times. So that would be 10,000,000 iterations of pi, and I can just average those. So let's say average. And this might have some overhead, so let's give it some time. There we go. Right, and let's change this to be sequence of this number. And then we can get rid of this sequence out of here. That's just going to take a little while. Hopefully we don't crash. I haven't saved this, so let's actually save it. All right, so now that all overhead is going on in one cell, let's do pi. Let's actually label some stuff up. Now let's let it run, I guess. So let's turn back on automatic formulas. There we go, we're getting pretty close. Let's do it 20 times. And I basically want to do this just to see how close I can simulate pi with this Monte Carlo before my computer can't do it. So I noticed I'm getting a load of zeros at the end here. So I'm curious whether I might just open a new Excel so I don't have to recalculate every time. Okay, I'm just testing this rand between formula. I think I need a prime number of runs here, because if I do something that's divisible by 10, I'm never going to get 2/3 of the value. I'm never going to get like a decimal that will go that long. So let's check if my theory is right. This mathematically makes sense to me. Oh, this is going to take ages to open now because I'm going to run 100 million scenarios. Okay, I'm not. Let's change this to 1 for now. So we're only running 1,000,000. Formulas, automatic. See if I do this like 1,000,001. I think I might just need an odd number. Yes, now I get the precision I wanted. Now I'll see how close we can get. So 10 million simulations. Let's have a look. Okay, not bad. Should we jump straight to 100 million again? This will take a while. Yeah, it's getting fairly close. Right, let's see if I can do 200 million simulations. Okay, it's finished. I don't think there's any risk of this crashing. I think it just will run it. It just takes time. Okay, I'm going to do 500 million as a final test. Or do I do 1 billion? Just see if my computer can do 1 billion. All right, I'm going to do 1 billion simulations of this, and that will be the last one I do, and we'll see how close I get to pi. I know there's other methods to simulate pi, other formulas that will get you more precise definitions of pi, but I wanted to specifically do it with random number generation Monte Carlo simulation. So I'm going to press this, probably go away for 5 minutes and come back, and then we'll see how close it got if it finishes. Alright, it's finished. Didn't actually take that long. So we only got 4 decimal places right, which I do wonder if how truly random Excel's random number generation is. It's hard to do anything truly random. I imagine if I ran it again, I would get a result and I might get lucky and get a little bit closer, but that's the nature of random sampling. So that's it for this video. I'm going to kill this file. But yeah, random one to make. I just thought I would do it for fun. Anyway, hope you enjoyed. See you next time.